Okay, so let's start in a seated position for our final session of the Vayus. So if you want to use some padding underneath, whether it's a little zafu or a cushion, just make sure you're comfortable and ensure that your pelvis is free to move around. So that padding is there to create space for the hip flexor to lengthen, the knees to move away. So ideally the knees are beneath the hip points and there's some space within the spine for movement, and ideally the pelvis is tilting forwards slightly. So there's some space for the pelvis to tilt forwards, which is an anterior tilt, as opposed to the tailbone pointing down and backwards, which is a posterior tilt, which moves the spine into a bit of flexion. So we want to come into a fairly comfortable position to start with. So this session is about Vyana Vayu, which is our final pranic wind. And Vyana is to do with this all-pervasive movement and flow within the body. So it's said to be based within the fascia, the connective tissue all around our bodies. So a lot of the time fascia doesn't get a lot of, well, it's a big deal now, but it doesn't get a lot of consideration. And we are going to be waking up that fascia with a massage ball. If we don't have a massage ball, we can use our knuckles to massage into the skin. That's equally as useful. And the idea here is, as we roll through the hands, first of all, is that we are waking up or enlivening the fascia, which thereby enlivens the prana, as we call it in yoga, the vital energy, the pranic energy, which is what we're dealing with when we're talking about the Vayus, the winds within the body. And prana can be likened to chi or ki in the Chinese system. So it's the life force within us. So it's something that can be sensed and not necessarily measured scientifically, but it's something that is present within our bodies. And it is said in one of the texts that the yogis, if they put themselves within an area that is devoid of light and food, they eliminate the pranic winds of elimination, which is the apana. The udana is eliminated, and the samana, the digestion and assimilation, is eliminated. The one thing that is left within that body is still alive, but it's not necessarily working to the same degree as you might be used to. The Vyana is still present within the body. So it is said that death essentially is to do with disintegration, and those components of the body, such as earth, fire, water, air, which is the Vayu, go back to their original source. So I'll be reading a little bit about the Vayus from the Hatha Yoga Pradipika. Let's start massaging the back of the hands now, which is a medieval text. And we'll be doing a meditation later on, which is actually taken from T.S. Little, which is a meditation on inner triangles, which are related to the Vayus. So as a recap, let's massage onto the other hand. You have the prana Vayu, and the prana, the pranic energy, is the energy that is within the whole of the body, that is connected with the in-breath. You have apana, let's massage up the arms. Apana is the Vayu to do with elimination, and it's situated within the pelvis, rolling up the arms here. You have udana, the upward energy, opposed to the apana energy, which is situated in the throat, rolling up to the shoulders here, perhaps rolling around into the sternomastoid area and the trapezius. Maybe that feels quite tender around there. So you've got Vyana, this upward energy. And then you have Samana. So Samana is this energy of assimilation situated around the navel. And Vyana, which is situated within the fascia. And it's to do with this sense of pulsation from inner to outer throughout the whole of the body. So rolling the ball onto the other side of the sternomastoid now. And waking up the fascia. And just notice which areas of the body feel tender. So this is really lovely to move up the sternomastoid, up towards the TMJ, towards the jawbone, the joint here. And then we're going to be massaging to the upper arm here. Rolling in circles. Again, if you're using your knuckles, you can just massage in with the knuckles rather than doing a circular action. So the massage balls are really wonderful for this. And then massage down the outer arm. Lovely, all the way down to the top of the hands. So you may want to massage this around the front of the sternum or the breastbone into the heart space. How does that feel? And indeed, you can go from side to side, moving. There are various massage things or techniques that you can do around the outside edge of the breast that are really good for any build-up around that area of the body. And that's something that is really wonderful to do, especially around the top, around the bottom of the armpit here. So that's something we can do. And then massaging around the other side. Breast care massage, really important. I did quite a lot of these massages with a Qigong teacher a few years ago. And then let's come round to the front of the abdomen, massaging there. The center of Samana, the navel energy, that navel radiation that we worked with within the Samana session. Let's move down towards the hip flexors. So it may be good to have the legs out actually in front while we do this, massaging along the thigh. You can spend more time with the areas that need it. Moving over the knee, not really pressing into the kneecap there, and then moving along the outer edge of the shin. So you can see that, just moving down along the side there, feeling into that area. Lovely. And then we're going to come up the other leg, massaging the side of the shin, past the knee, and then into the quad there. Noticing how that feels. Okay, so we'll pop the ball onto the floor and just massage into the base of the right foot. So the plantar fascia, the snowshoe of connective tissue that protects our feet, needs a little bit of attention. And let's move that ball underneath the left foot, massaging into the sole of the foot. Lovely. Super. And then let's remove that ball and put it aside and come back into a cross-legged position. So the pranayama that we're going to focus on in today's session to start with is called the Samavritti pranayama. So sama means equal. So we'll be working with a ratio of 1 to 1. And the ratio for you may be a count of 4, or maybe a count of 5. But let's just begin. So remembering that with an inhale through the nostrils, belly billows, widens, softens, diaphragm flattens. On the exhalation, we have the navel drawing inwards, the diaphragm arches, the cavity is reduced, exhaling through the nostrils. So inhaling, 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. Inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. Relax those shoulders and maybe take that to a 5. Inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And keep going with that. So with our Samravritti, we can place a kumbhaka, a pause, at the top of the inhalation and at the bottom of the exhalation. But we don't want to force anything with this kumbhaka. So we then come into a ratio of 1 to 1 to 1 to 1, which is square breathing. So we're going to inhale 1, 2, 3, 4, hold 1, 2, 3, 4, exhale 1, 2, 3, 4, hold 1, 2, 3, 4. Inhale 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold 1, 2, 3, 4. And you carry on like this at whatever pace works for you. So if the hold at 4 is too much, you can do the ratio of 1/2 to 1. So it would be 4 on an inhale, 2 as your pause, your kumbhaka, your hold or your retention, and then 4 on the exhalation, 2 on the retention. And it therefore makes a rectangular shape. So you can try that if it's quite hard to hold the kumbhaka for the same length as the inhalation and the exhalation. Or you can keep going with whatever of those two things works for you. So you're really visualizing this shape as you follow through with your breath. And with Samvriti, you really do come into a place of calm. If there's any anxiety that's coming into the breath, let go of that pranayama. Let go of what feels restricting perhaps, and come back to an option that's more suitable for you. So stretching out the legs in front of us with that sense of the Samravritti pranayama. Don't just drop it straight away. We're going to come into the feet first of all. So spiraling into our extremities is really important to create this free flow of energy throughout the body into the joints, circling the feet in one direction and coming back in the opposite direction, really spreading through the toes here. 3 times, and then point the toes up to the ceiling, point the toes away, so sort of ballet toes, dorsiflexion of the foot, pointing the toes to the ceiling. We're then going to bring the thigh into the hand and straighten the knee, bend the knee 3 times, straighten, bend, straighten, breathing in the same fashion in your Samravritti. Super. We're then going to bring the big toe into the fingers and spiral into the hip here. So you're also moving into the knee, and that's absolutely fine. And there's a sense of control here. So we don't need to worry about moving into the knee because there's no weight dumping into the knees here. And then we're going to bring that foot into the inside of the elbow and rock the baby. Notice whether anything's coming up into the jaw and soften around the jaw area. And there are going to be common areas for our pranic energy to almost get stuck so there isn't free flow. And those areas may include the hips, of course, an area that traditionally holds quite a lot of tension for us. Lovely. And then rest the foot away. Come to the other side, clasping the hands underneath the thigh and straightening. And bending at the knee, straightening, bending, straightening, bending. Get hold of the big toe and circle into the hip, and there may be an easier way for you to work. Really find your own way with your hips here today. Notice how this side feels. before bringing the foot into the inner arm and rocking the baby. Spine fairly nice and tall. How does this side feel compared to the other? And with your baby, you can rock backwards and forwards and side to side. Lovely. And then release the legs away. And we're going to come into the shoulders. So bring the hands onto the shoulders here. We're going to scoop 3 circles up and back. Breathing in a smooth fashion. And then coming back in the opposite direction. Lovely. And then as you bring the arms forwards, we're going to straighten the hands away from the body and bend the hands. So we'll bend the elbows rather to touch the shoulders. Straightening and bending. One more time. Straightening and bending. And then as you bring the hands out in front of you, just press the palms forward, spreading the fingers, and spread the fingers down. Up and down 3 times. Up and down. And then we're going to spiral the hands around. Noticing whether there's any clicking, that's fine. If there's clicking, don't worry. And then back in the opposite direction. Super. Excellent. And then rest the hands down. Lovely. So we're going to come onto our backs, get hold of your strap. We're going to come and do Supta Padangusthasana, then Jatara Parivriti mobilization. So first of all, with our Supta Padangusthasana, bend the left leg with the foot and the footprint down to the mat and extend the leg away with the strap. Breathing into the back of the hamstrings, the back of the legs, the back line of fascia that connects the sole of the foot all the way up the back of the legs, the buttocks, the back, up towards the crown of the head. Breathing into the back of the legs here. And then you can straighten the lower leg if that feels okay. Exploring how it is to lift the heel off the ground and maybe exploring what it feels like to just drop the heel. Feel that lengthening taking place within the iliopsoas. Breathing, keeping those shoulders away from the ears as we explore the backs of the legs here. And then bending the leg, release the strap, bring the right foot back down and come over to the left side, extending the foot away. Breathing into the back of the left leg here. Sending that exhalation. Noticing that still point in the kumbhaka. And straighten that lower leg. Exploring the lift that takes place with the heel off the ground and then dropping the heel down. Noticing what takes place. And if there is anything occurring within the lumbar here, just bend the knee and place the foot. So we have a footprint on the mat. Lovely. Releasing the strap on the left side. We're going to draw the knees in towards the center. Bring the hands out to the side so we have a T shape. Roll over it onto the left side to come in Jatara Parivriti, your supine rotation. And wherever the knees sit, ensure that those shoulders are connected to the ground. And then we'll explore whether the neck is happy to rotate, looking over to the right hand rather. Breathing along the inside of the arm here. Allowing for that lovely rotation to come about through the thoracic spine. And if the neck is restrictive in this motion, just gaze up towards the ceiling. Take note of that for later. Inhale the legs up towards the middle and exhale and roll the knees over to the right side. Ensure the shoulders are grounded, gazing over to the left hand. And breathe. Allow for that spiral to take place throughout the thoracic spine. And notice whether the gaze is happy to gaze over to the left hand. And indeed, if it feels too much, look up at the ceiling and take note of the neck for later. Inhaling. Kumbhaka. Exhaling. Kumbhaka. Inhaling. Rolling the knees up towards the middle, grabbing hold of the knees, and we're just going to rock and roll back up to sitting to come back into your Sukhasana. So if your neck was feeling restricted within the Jatara Parivriti, you can come into the neck exercises by using the eye gaze. So firstly, take note of your shoulders. Are they lifting up towards the ears, and roll them back? Drop the left ear to the left shoulder, lengthening along the sternomastoid, tilting that chin inwards and outwards. How is that? And then if you would like to take this further, you can bring that left hand onto the side, to the right side of the head, and use the weight of the hand to pivot and explore the neck even further. So if you found the neck was tight, we can bring the eye gaze into the look up to the right corner of the eye sockets, looking for that transition from the sympathetic nervous system into the parasympathetic nervous system, looking for that sense of transition, salivation, sigh. And when that does come about, you can come out of the eye socket gaze early. Otherwise, you can go beyond 30 seconds. If you haven't explored this exercise before, it does take a while for that sense of transitioning to come in. So letting go of the weight of the hand, roll the chin to the middle, to the front, and then roll over to the side. Keep that right shoulder down, pivoting side to side, and then if you want to bring that right hand up to the side of the head, you can rock and roll and feel into the side of the neck. So again, if you use the eye gaze exercise on one side, you can come into that on the other. So using the eyes in this way relieves the tension in the neck by using the eye socket. And that's connected to polyvagal theory. So it's the theory that the connection with the vagus nerve is connected with our facial muscles, the way we express ourselves, the way we respond, the way that we reciprocate. It's our social engagement system. So we're hacking that by using the eyes here. So we're looking up to the left corner of the eye socket. And if a sigh comes about, let it out. Don't try and hold or control that. Inhaling, exhaling. And if the signs have come about, that sense of calm, sense of salivation, you can bring the eyes back to neutral. Relieve the hand of the head and roll the chin in towards the chest, feeling into the neck muscles here. So we're just going to have a very slight pause within this neck lengthening and with a chin tucked in slightly. Now we're touching base with a sense of the Jaladhara lock or bandha. There are 3 locks within the body that are connected with engaging the pranic energy flow. So I want you to imagine, or to actually embody the sense of lengthening the back neck muscles, drawing the chin in, feel that length around the back of the throat. Super. And we're going to feel into that as well when we come up into downward dog. We have other bandhas as well as Jaladhara bandha, which is situated around the neck. We have Uddiyana bandha, which is related to the diaphragm. So there's an exhalation of all the air within the belly, and the diaphragm in that area kind of sucks up into the rib cage. It flies. It's really a great one to do when you're in downward dog. And then obviously we're familiar with Mula Bandha, which is the pelvic floor. So let's just touch base with Mula Bandha, pelvic floor. So I'd like you to engage the pelvic floor muscles, that hammocking, and relax. Engage them and relax. Engage on the exhalation. Inhale, relax them. So we're exhaling, engaging the pelvic floor. Inhaling, relaxing. So we've got these diaphragms. We've also got the vocal diaphragm. We're not working with that right now. The diaphragm, which is the respiratory diaphragm, and the pelvic diaphragm, we want them to flatten at the same time because they're a pressurized system, and arch up like a jellyfish at the same time, which is why we're exhaling and contracting, inhaling and relaxing. It's tricky to get hold of at times. Exhaling, contracting, inhale and flatten. But we will work with that when we're in our dog. So first of all, we're going to work into the wrists before we come into Sharira Mudra. And anything to do with the breath is going to enhance the pranic flow and therefore enhance Vyana, Vayus. So if you pivot yourself onto your hands into an all fours position, maybe just resting back onto the feet, bring the hands in front of you, just explore widening the fingers as wide as possible. So fingers lovely and wide, protecting the wrists, and then spiraling the fingers out to the side, rocking backwards and forwards. Notice how your hands are today. Mine are a bit achy on the left side in particular. And then spiral the fingers in towards the pelvis, feeling into the base of the thumb, and then spiral the fingers to meet in the center. And then if you want to, you can flip the hands upside down. How does that feel? Lovely. So we often practice Sharira Mudra to be able to distinguish the areas of the lungs that we're breathing into. So we're going to spread the fingers like this. So the thumb is spread, and then you've got the fingers next to one another. And your shoulders are relaxed, and then you're cupping the hands. So the thumbs are pointing to the back of the ribs. Actually, we're at the waist first of all. And then the fingers are pointing towards the front. So we're getting into the 3-part breath here. So I'd like you to breathe into this area of the body, the belly. Inhaling, really allowing the belly to soften and expand. Exhaling. And the navel draws inwards. Inhaling. Expanding belly. Exhaling. Inhaling. Exhaling. Inhaling. Notice how it feels to breathe into the depths of the belly, allowing for the diaphragm to move. It's a sense of calm come over you, or perhaps something else. And then draw those fingers up to the rib cage now. So around the base of the rib cage, inhaling into this region of the body, relax those shoulders, they're going to want to creep up. Inhaling, expanding and widening around the rib cage, exhaling. And you can touch base with your kumbhakas here. That retention at the top of the inhalation. The retention at the bottom of the exhalation. The Antar and Bihar kumbhaka. So if that worked for you at the beginning of the session, come into that square breathing. What does it feel like to breathe in this fashion around the thoracic, around the rib cage? may feel slightly less calming than breathing into the abdomen. And then bring the fingers into the armpits. So the fingers are pointing at the front towards the sternum, and the elbows are out to the side. Inhaling. Exhaling. Fingers move together. Inhaling. And you might find you automatically come into a 3-part breath, or perhaps you're isolating the breath in the top of the lungs here. And what do you perceive within your own body? Exhaling. So we're moving into the clavicular area of the spine here, breathing into the top. This may feel familiar, or this may bring about a sense of anxiety. Just notice that within your own body before relieving the hands, and then bringing the hands onto the back of the shoulders. Now, firstly, can you find the back of your shoulders? Will the arms allow themselves to fold in this way? Now we're breathing into the upper back lobes of the lungs, into the hands. So imagine you're breathing into that area. Inhaling. Exhaling. How does this feel? And what's the response through the chest and up into the jaw? Is the response a sense of tension? Or perhaps there's a sense of comfort with the hands on the back of the shoulders? And relieve yourself of that action. So we're coming into the final Sharira Mudra. So we're bringing, and this is why the wrists were so important, we're bringing the middle fingers into a steeple shape, wrapping the forefinger and the baby fingers over. Then the forefinger here is wrapped over. So you've got the middle finger in a steeple, as you might be able to see here. So we've got our steeple finger, and we've got the ring finger, pinky finger, forefinger wrapped, and then you've got the thumbs pointing outwards. So it's very much like the nursery rhyme that you may have experienced as a child. So the main point is you've got this middle finger pointing out, and we're going to spiral. So is there enough space within the wrist to spiral? So the middle finger comes up to the breastbone, the sternum, and the thumb is pointing to the base of the rib cage. So it's the fingers like this, and they're spiraling, if the wrists will allow for it. So they're pressing into the sternum, and then you've got the thumb coming into the front of the rib cage. So it looks like you've got the shape, and the thumb is pressing down. So we're breathing with a focus with this mudra. So inhaling and exhaling. Now, how is the breath when you embody this mudra here within your body? How does that feel? Are we moving into a sense of an all-pervasive breath, with all regions of the lungs opening and receiving prana or oxygen? Is there a sense of clearing, or is there a sense of congestion? Inhaling and exhaling. And this in-breath and this prana that is received through the breath is inherently connected to the prana vayu and that vital energy within the body. But prana is not just the breath. is the reciprocal relationship, the energy management within the body. And then we're just going to release the hands here. Spread the fingers wide, come forwards onto all fours and allow for those hands to readjust, especially the wrists, because it's quite strong on the wrists. We're coming into an all fours position. Make sure those hands are directly under the shoulders, the knees directly under the hips, and the back or the spine is in a flat position, with the fronts of the feet resting against the ground. So we're briefly going to drop into cat-cow, allowing for the elbows to bend, the head to hang heavy. Exhale, come into your flexion. Inhale, come into neutral, bending the elbows. Exhale, coming into an extension. Keep the gaze of the drishti just to the front of the mat. Inhale into neutral and exhale and allow for the tailbone and the head to drop. Feeling into that exhale, that flying up of the diaphragm and a contraction of the lower band, and come back to neutral. So we're going to move into bird dog, relieving the weight of the right hand and the left knee and extending out wide, coming into dorsiflexion of the foot, gazing down in front of you. So the neck is nice and long. Extending outwards, draw those limbs back in and come to the other side. Extending out through finger and base of foot. So we're working with a sense of navel radiation coming from the core, which is inherently connected with Sama, Vayus, and retrieve the hand and the foot back down again. We can take this a little bit further, so we can stretch out through the limbs here, inhaling, but then exhaling and drawing the elbow to the knee and the flexion. Let's do 3 on this side. Inhaling, reaching, exhale, and knee to elbow. Inhale, exhale, nice and slow. Drop the hand and the knee back down. Come to the opposite side. Inhaling, and then exhaling, drawing elbow to knee. Inhale, exhale, elbow to knee. Inhale, exhale, elbow to knee. Dropping the hand and the knee back down. Tuck the toes under, and we're going to come up into our downward dog and play with the sense of bandha. So as we come into dog, we're taking the weight off the hands, the weight is into the legs, and we reach the hip points up towards the ceiling, and the head dangles down nice and heavy. So we're lengthening the back of the neck and drawing the chin in slightly for a Jaladhara Bandha. Give that a go and see how it feels. And on an exhalation, you're going to allow for the belly to fly and reach up into the rib cage. You may be able to see that. The sense of the hips moving away. And then a sense of Mula Bandha of contraction. So we're locking the flow of energy here, but by doing that, we're enhancing the sense of keeping that prana within the body. So we've got a Mula Bandha on, we've got Jaladhara Bandha on around the throat, and we've got Uddiyana Bandha. And then draw the knees back down. So there's quite a subtle sense of energy within those locks. Just see if that works for you, whether it makes any, if it makes any sense within your own body. And we're going to come forwards into all fours, extending the legs out behind to come into plank. So we've got a nice strong plank here. The sense of energy or the gravity pulling us down towards the earth, and the sense of lift here as we come down through chaturanga or knees, chest, chin, bending the elbows and coming down into crocodile. So we're going to come into some spinal extension, mainly locust. So first of all, we're going to come into crocodile, wriggling the hips from side to side and allowing for the chin or the cheek to rest down one side and then the cheek to come to the other side. Just ensuring that the neck is okay here. Swap from one side to the other side. And we're going to work with the legs element of the locust first of all. So I'd like you to think about lengthening through the left leg, really extending through the leg, and it will lengthen through the hip flexor of the front, extending through the leg. So the front of the body is down. You've got this sense of moving away, flying away from the upper body and release. And we're going to do the same with the right side. We're extending away, so the foot's lengthening away from the tailbone, but lifting. So that's the response of a lift, but the intention is a lengthening. And you'll feel the glutes working here. And release. Let's do both of the legs at the same time. Remembering to breathe, lift the legs. The front of the body is down on the ground. Lifting and release. Super. We're going to work through the upper body. So extending through the right arm. We're going to lift just through the arm here. And the hip points and the top of the feet are down. And release. Draw that arm in. Extend through the left. Reach, lengthen. The legs are down, the hip points are down, top of feet down. And release. Now we can try both arms together. If it's feeling a lot in the shoulders, you can bring the hands down by the hip points. Inhale, just the upper body. And release. And then we're going to do the legs, so the lower half and the upper half at the same time. So you can bring the hands down by the side if you wish. And lift. So we're thinking about lengthening, a crisscrossing action across the back of the body. So the lengthening is hopefully taking place around the front line of the body. And there's a contraction around the back of the body. And release and come back into crocodile. So while you're in crocodile, I'm just going to read from verse 3, chapter 2, which is page 153 of the Hatha Yoga Pranavika, which is our medieval text. And it says, as long as the Vayu, air and prana, remains in the body, that is called life. Death is when it leaves the body. Therefore, retain Vayu. So, in this sloka, we are told to retain the Vayu. Vayu means air, but it does not refer only to the gross air and its chemical properties. It indicates pranic air. In the pranic body, Pingala, which is, you've got Ida and Pingala, the left and the right side that we channel through Nadi Shodhana. Pingala channelizes Prana Shakti, but Prana Vayu moves throughout the whole body like waves of energy. It can be likened to an electromagnetic field where the energy is in constant motion. There are 5 main Vayu functions known as Apana, Prana, Samana, Udana, and Vyana, which is what we've been working with in the past 5-6 weeks. They are the different processes and manifestations of the one Vayu, just as the various limbs of a man comprise the one body, or woman, if we say. Pranic absorption takes place on a major scale in the thoracic region and is the function of Prana Vayu. Elimination takes place largely through the urinary, excretory, and reproductive organs and is powered by Apana. And in between Apana and Prana in the stomach region is the area of assimilation, which is the function of Samana. Movement in the throat and facial expressions are due to Udana, and circulation is powered by Vyana, which pervades the whole body. So there's a lot in here, and it's kind of interesting depending on how you look at it. So in the Upanishads, Prana Vayu is also called the in-breath, Apana the out-breath, Samana the middle breath, Udana the up-breath, hence the Sharira mudras. Prana Vayu is inhalation, Apana exhalation, Samana is the time between the inhalation and the exhalation, the kumbhaka, or the retention. And Udana, the extension of Samana. According to the Maitreya Upanishad, Samana is the higher form of Vyana, and between them is the production of Udana, that which brings up or carries down what has been drunk or eaten is Udana. So from a yogic point of view, the most important Vayu is Samana. It's related to Sushumna Nadi, which is that main channel that we're aiming for within Nadi Shodhana and various things. Prana Vayu is related to Ida, Apana to Pingala, and ascension of Kundalini to Udana. Samana Vayu has to be developed. This takes place by suspending Apana and Prana within the region of Samana. Each Vayu is independent and interconnected. In the Chandogya Upanishad, it is asked, on what are you, body and senses, and your self-soul supported? On prana. And what is prana supported? On apana. On what is apana supported? On Vyana. On what is Vyana supported? On samana. So with that in mind, with all our asanas and pranayamas, we are working with the Vayus, whether we're aware of it or not. So as you have been in your crocodile, draw yourself up into Sphinx, bringing the elbows underneath the shoulders, allowing for the breastbone to come forwards, relaxing the shoulders away from the ears. And then we're going to draw the hands underneath the shoulders, come back into Child's Pose, Balasana, and allow for the forehead to creep forwards. The hands are going to extend over to the left side of the body, left side of the mat. Breathing along the right seam. Inhaling. Breathing into the thoracic. Exhaling. Feeling that sense of sinking downwards. Inhaling. Creeping back to center. Exhale. Bring the hands over to the right side, opening up the left seam of the body. Inhaling. Widening, exhaling, drawing inwards, inhaling, and exhaling. Creeping the hands back to center. We're going to pop ourselves up into downward dog, making sure the head is nice and heavy, creeping the hips up towards the ceiling. And coming through our three-legged dog, draw the knee in towards the nose, thereabouts, drawing it around the waistline, and then bring the foot forwards to come into our crescent moon or low lunge, flattening the back foot down against the mat and lifting up through the arms. So within this action, we've got the sense of drawing downwards through the hips and the release of the hip flexor, which is our apana. And then through the rooting up of the arms, the gaze comes up towards the other side of the room with relaxed shoulders and a sense of Jaladhara Bandha, so the chin's tucked in. And we're dealing with Udana Vayu. And then throughout the whole of the body, the energy of the prana that's moving around the body and through the fascia, you're dealing with the Vyana Vayu. With the breath, we are working with the prana Vayu. Lovely. And then draw the hands down, propping the back foot up into high lunge. Extending now through the heel. And then we're going to creep the hands to the inside of the foot to come into lizard. Allow for the hips to sink. Perhaps you come down onto the elbows or perhaps not. And then you can roll over onto the side of the foot if that feels accessible. Breathing into the hips here. And the back knee can drop down if that's helpful. Relaxing the forehead down towards the floor. Inhaling the hands back up to that side. Lovely. And then creep the hand to the other side. So it may be helpful for you here, if you've got a brick, to get hold of that brick and put it to the inside of the foot, so the inside seam of the foot tip. So the legs are nice and strong. With the right hand, we're going to inhale and gaze, watching the fingers as they spiral and windmill to the back of the room. 3 times. Inhaling. Exhaling. Inhaling. And exhaling. Bringing those hands back down to either side of the brick, and we're going to reach that left foot forwards and meet the right foot to come into Uttanasana, your forward fold, bending the knees, head hangs heavy. Lovely. And then bending those knees, swaying from side to side, allowing for movement to come in. We're going to sweep through the hands and creep up through the spine. Really feeling into this space, and I'm going to move the screen, but carry on as you bring yourself upright. Really important to come upright. And the last thing, of course, to come up is going to be the head as you come up into your Tadasana. And when we make ourselves come up into mountain pose, when we come up to this place, I want you to widen the legs so they're nice and wide, so you've got lots of space. I'm still headless. We're going to come into a sweeping action, bending the knees, and I want you to just fling yourself. So we've got this spiraling taking place where you widen the arms out to the side and allow for those arms to swing so the knees are bent. Really allow yourself to move in this way, relaxing the shoulders, relaxing the jaw, relaxing around the temples, breathing nice and easy. Lovely. And then we're going to spiral around to the front here, so you can't see my feet. Coming to the front of the mat, feeling into the footprint, and then bringing the left foot back into Virabhadrasana 1. So the footprint is able to come back and move forwards. So you're nice and stable, and the base of support is nice and wide, so you're not on a tightrope. So you'll be able to see. It's not like you're on a thin wall. So we're going to come into a Virabhadrasana 1 flow, making sure your base of support is nice and grounded. Lift up through the hands. Inhale. Exhale, fold forwards. Inhale, reach. Feel that hinging in the hips. Exhale, gather the hands back towards the back foot. Inhale. Lift up through the arms. Exhale. Fold forwards. Inhale. Receive. Exhale. Release what you don't need. Inhale. Exhale, fold forwards. Inhale, reach, gazing through arms. Exhale, gather. Inhale. 2 more. Exhale, fold forwards. Inhale, reach. Exhale, gather. Inhale, lifting up through torso, arms come up towards the ceiling. Exhale. Inhale, reach. Exhale, receive and release. Excellent. We're going to prop ourselves up onto the front foot now and come into Virabhadrasana 3 with the arms alongside the body, pivoting through the hips here, coming into Virabhadrasana 3, extending through the foot, and then place that foot back down where it came from, coming back into Virabhadrasana 1. Option to do that one more time. Bringing the hands down by the side of the body, lifting up through the foot, pivoting in the hips. Extend through the foot there. And we're going to come forwards now drawing the knee up towards the chest. Come into a standing position with the knee up. Excellent. So bending the knee and drawing the foot behind us, we're going to come into dancer pose. Gather the hand around the outside of the foot or the inside of the foot. The inside might work best for you. And see if that knee wants to draw away from the front of the mat. So it comes behind. The hand comes forwards. Press the ankle of the foot away from the body. Come into your version of dancer, flying through the chest and the throat. Udana, grounding, Apana, Samana, the sense of drawing in around the torso. Vyana is the energy throughout the body. Draw the knee back in and bring the foot back down. We're going to come through Uttanasana, forward fold. Option to bring your hand underneath your foot to massage into there. And then we're going to make our way back into downward dog, stepping back through one leg and the other to come into downward dog. Now you can come down into child's pose. Otherwise we're extending out through the left leg this time, drawing the left knee into nose. Bringing that left foot forwards. So we're going to come into your low lunge crescent moon on the other side, flattening the back foot along the mat. Allowing for the hips to sink forwards and down towards the mat here. We're going to lift up through the arms, coming into slight back bend. The chin tucked in, Jaladhara Bandha. Taking note of the Apana flow downwards, the Udana flow upwards. Breathing into this space before drawing the hands down, tucking the toe under at the back, coming into high lunge. Find yourself into your high lunge. How does this feel? Before creeping the hands to the inside of the foot, and you can move the foot here to come into lizard. Maybe coming down onto the elbows, maybe rolling onto the side of the foot. How is lizard for you today? Wherever you're at, you can prop yourself back up again. Get hold of your brick and bring that to the inside of the foot here. So the right hand has somewhere to support itself before we reach forwards, gazing with the hands to windmill and spiral through the hand here. Inhaling and exhaling, following with the hand. Inhale and exhale. Inhale and exhale, spiraling through the hand. Bring that brick out of the way. We're going to creep that back leg to meet the left leg, coming into Uttanasana, forward fold. Bending the knees, spiraling, coming through your figure of 8, and coming up through Ragdoll, and meeting ourselves up into Tadasana. So we come up into Tadasana, the head is the last thing to come up. Feeling in the footprints. And we're going to bring the opposite leg back this time. So left leg back to come into your Virabhadrasana 1. So you want to make sure that footprint is stable. So it's nice and wide and not on a tight rope. So you've got the heel coming in at an angle, or you can have the heel off the ground. The hip points are facing forwards like headlamps. We're lifting up through the arms. Lifting up, feeling that back leg, that line of energy. Apana energy through the legs. Udana energy through the upper body. Inhale, exhale coming into our flow, hinging. Inhale, reach. Exhale, gather. Inhale, lift. Exhale, folding forwards. Inhale, reach. Exhale, gather, release. Inhale, lift, bending that front knee. Exhale, if you need to come out of this early, feel free to do so. Inhale, reach. Exhale, receive and release. Inhale. Exhale, hinge. Inhale, reach. Exhale, release. Taking the weight into the front leg, we're going to draw the knee off the ground, come into Virabhadrasana 3. Extending through the foot, dorsiflexion, bending through the knee, flying here. And then drop the foot back where it was if you can. Drawing the arms up towards the ceiling. Let's try that one more time and we'll finish off in Tadasana with the knee tucked in towards the chest. So the knee spirals in towards the chest, hugging the knee in, before bringing the knee back and holding the foot to extend through the hip flexor to prepare for your dancer pose. Okay, so we allow for the hinging to take place, pressing through. So sometimes it's helpful to have the hand around the ankle as opposed to the foot. The right hand extends out in front, pushing away, coming into dancer, Natarajanasana. Come into your dancer today, feeling into your balance, wherever it is. And if you drop out, just come back in. Whatever works for you. Coming and drawing the body back in again. Drawing the body back in your own time, your own flow, before we come into a wide leg position. Coming into Prasarita Padottanasana, making sure that the ankles are out slightly more than the front of the feet. So you've got a sense of the outer line of the foot, bringing the hands to the hip points, hinging forwards to your wide-legged forward fold. The head hangs towards the floor. Breathing along the back of the legs here. For 3 breaths, hold this. If you've got high blood pressure, you may want to just move out of this, moving in and out rather than holding. Inhaling through that belly. For our next inhale, we're going to lift up and out, coming back upright. Get hold of your brick this time and bring that in front of you so we can bring the hands down to that space to come into rotation. So we have a forward fold taking place from the hips. The hands on the hips. Release the left hand down to the brick. Inhale the arms, the right arm comes up towards the ceiling, following the hand and spiraling around. Notice whether the hips are trying to twist here and allow for that action to take place around the thoracic. Inhaling, exhaling, we're going to bring the right hand down to the brick, lengthening through the spine. Inhaling, spiraling up through the hand, gaze follows. Inhaling. Notice whether the pelvis wants to move and fix that. Exhaling, gaze follows the hand down. Allow the head to sink forwards. Hands come to the hips. Inhale and lift. We're going to spiral the heels inwards now. Make sure the knees align with the feet to come into Goddess. Goddess is a really wonderful one to come into this sense of apana, elimination. And as we sink down, feel the lift of the pelvic floor, the mula band will automatically lift. Breathing here, you can bring your hands into cactus with the forefinger and the thumb together in the mudra of consciousness, Vyana mudra, relaxing the shoulders. And you have the option to come into lion's breath, samasana, which is the extension of the tongue, the exhalation of the debris in from the lungs, and the eyes roll back. I'm just going to do it once because I've got a sore throat. You have an option to do that more than once. So breathing freely, nice and strong in the quads, inhaling. Extending the tongue out. You can try that again if you felt like there was more to release. I'm doing it quite gently because I'm not 100%. Inhaling. Turns out it's quite nice to do it with the facial muscles without forcing the breath out. Anyway, we're going to straighten the knees here. One more time, coming down through Goddess. Lifting up onto the toes of the left lifting up onto the toes of the right, spreading through the feet, lifting up through both heels. And we're going to come forwards and down into Malasana. So you want to wing your feet in, wiggle, as it were, and come into a Malasana that works for you. So it's your squat. So you may want to have the feet more parallel and spread, depends on the set of your pelvis. The hands come in through Anjali Mudra, lifting up through the spine, slight Jaladhara Bandha. Just take note of the pelvic floor, little squeeze, lovely. And then drop down onto your sitting bones. We're going to come down onto our backs now to come into Apanasana, which is named after Apana. So we have to do Apanasana. It's very important. So this really helps the sense of elimination. It's wind relieving pose. Drawing the knees in towards the chest. Exhale. Inhale, just allow for the knees to relax away. Exhale. Drawing the knees in towards the body. Super. Dropping the feet down. We're going to come into semi-supine. To come into Dvipadapitham, our flowing bridge with the arms. So pay attention to your pelvis, drawing the knees away, grounding through the feet. Allow for the pelvis and the vertebra to lift and the arms to extend overhead. And we're going to exhale and allow for the elbows to bend and the vertebra to roll back down onto the floor. Let's do this 3 times. Inhaling, knees draw away. Arms come up overhead. And exhale, really rolling through the vertebra here. Great thing to do for all spines, for your spine health. Inhaling. If the arms don't want to come all the way overhead, they can just hover wherever they need to be. Hopefully the shoulder mobility is good after a session like this. Exhale. Draw the elbows and the hips back down again. Drawing the knees up in towards the chest, back into your Apanasana. We're going to roll back upright into an easy cross-legged position. So we're going to move into Gomukhasana. So we'll get hold of the straps. Now, Gomukhasana is fairly a bound, taut position to be in. If the hips are happy to do so, we're going to come into Gomukhasana legs first of all, where the knees stack on top of each other. Now, if this isn't available to you today, you can come in through kneeling, through your hero pose. So when we come into this lovely stacked knee position, you can press down into the feet, lift up through the hips, and make sure those sitting bones are grounding down nice and happy. You can bring some props or padding underneath. We're going to get hold of the strap, lifting up through the right, because the right leg is on top, so right arm comes up on top. Dangling the strap down behind us, coming into your cow face pose, Gomukhasana. And with the exhalation, there may be more space within the shoulders. Please don't force it. It's fairly strong in the shoulders here. So give yourself some slack. Literally, as well as metaphorically. And if you are exhaling, and there's a certain pull towards the ground here, I hope you feel it too. Allow for the jaw to just relax and widen. And if you do want to creep the hands together, you can. Closing the eyes, softening around the eyes here. And there's a sense of this energy, this flow of energy in a figure of 8 here in your Gomukhasana. Perhaps you can feel it. And then releasing the strap and releasing the arm from underneath, being really cautious to come out of Gomukhasana. Opening out the arms wide and behind, And we're going to swap the legs over if they're in Gomukhasana legs. So the right leg now is underneath the left. And for some of us, it may be the case we're in more of a position of Ardha Matsundrasana, and that's fine. Otherwise, if you're happy to stack the knees, give yourself a little bit of space, pressing down into the feet and adjust the hips. So this time, if we've got the left leg on top, we're going to take the strap into the left arm and draw the hand over, dangling the strap down behind. So get hold of with the right hand and move into this Gomukhasana. With a slight Jaladhara Bandha with the chin tucked in. Or maybe you can feel the pranic flow of the figure of 8 energetically within this shape. Just going to have some water because I've got a dry throat. Relaxing into this. Perhaps make this Gomukhasana as soft as you possibly can, because it can feel like a very tight shape. How can you soften it and soften it even more? And then releasing the strap as we swivel the knees out of Gomukhasana legs. We're going to come back into Sukhasana or Siddhasana. So Sukhasana is with the shins crossed, easy, seated. Or if you want to come into Siddhasana, Adept's pose, or Siddha Yoni Asana for ladies, you've got the lower ankle and the upper ankle stacked, the lower ankle pressed in towards the perineum or the vulva, and the upper ankle is pressing in towards the front of the clitoris almost. So we're going to come into a meditation. So make sure you're comfortable, make sure that everything is aligned and the spine is erect. But that doesn't mean that it's straight as a beanpole. It means that every section is in its own shape. Make sure you're comfortable. Bring your padding into a position if you need to bring padding. So I'm sitting on a block, I'm going to give it a little bit of padding. So almost overdo the sense of height for the pelvis. Relaxing the shoulders, drawing the chin down, softening the gaze. And you have the option of coming into the palms facing up towards the ceiling, a receptive pose. If you need grounding, you can bring the hands down. For a mudra, you can come into the mudra of consciousness where the forefinger touches in at the thumb and the fingers move away. That's the mudra of consciousness, and if you want the mudra of knowledge, flip the hands down. So whatever works for you as I talk through this meditation. And this meditation is on inner triangles. So follow what you can and see how this works for you. Assume a comfortable seated position and settle the weight of your bones on your cushion by exhaling a few times. Relax your abdomen and release any tension that might be held or stored in your diaphragm. Close your eyes and visualize an inverted triangle located within your abdomen in such a way that the apex of the triangle is the tip of your coccyx to your tailbone, and the base of the triangle is the horizontal sheath of your respiratory diaphragm. So it's the apex of the triangle, the tip is the tip of your coccyx, the tailbone, and the base of the triangle is the horizontal sheath of the respiratory diaphragm. During each exhalation, trace the path of this upside down triangle downward to the tip of your tailbone. Exhale, trace the path of this upside down triangle downward to the tip of your tailbone. Initiate your breath from the span of the upper two corners of the triangle, located at the outer margin of your respiratory diaphragm. So you've got this lower diaphragm situated at the respiratory diaphragm with the apex at your tailbone. Now, imagine, and if it's too much, you can just focus on the Apana triangle. Imagine then a second upright triangle overlaid atop this first triangle. Locate the base of this upward pointing triangle at the navel of the level of your navel and visualize the apex located in the center of your heart. So this is an upward pointing triangle at the level of the navel with the apex located at the center of the heart. So we're going to have Samana here, Samana triangle. With each inhalation, feel the expansion of all three sides of the upward pointing triangle. At the crest of the inhalation, bring your awareness to the pinnacle of this upper triangle within your heart. So at the crest of the inhalation, bring your awareness to the pinnacle of the upper triangle within your heart. So you've got one triangle pointing down to the coccyx at the diaphragm. You've got an upward facing triangle at the diaphragm, or the navel rather, pointing up at the heart. Now the lower triangle suggests Apana Vayu, whose downward course is charted by the out-breath, while the upward triangle conveys Prana Vayu, the wind of the in-breath, whose abode is the heart. Last, focus your attention on the midpoint of these interlocking triangles, midway between your navel and the respiratory diaphragm. This is the Bindu that relates to the fire center or Samana Vayu, equalizing wind, of the solar plexus, also connected to Manipura chakra. This focal point integrates and harmonizes the ascending and descending currents of the body, which is what we've been dealing with within the Vayus. Magnify and dilate this epicenter between the opposing triangles. In time, visualize your entire breath pattern initiating from this point so that it becomes the source for all the pranic currents that flow through your body. So magnify and dilate this epicenter between the opposing triangles. So visualize your entire breath pattern initiating from this point so that it becomes the source for all pranic currents that flow through your body. So to remind you, you have this lower triangle situated between the coccyx and the respiratory diaphragm. And that's your Apana triangle. And then you have another triangle situated at the navel, pointing up at the heart space. And you're focusing on this area in between the overlocking triangles around the solar plexus, with the entire breath being initiated from this point. And that's your point of integration. It's the integration of all the Vayus, the integration of all of this, the winds within the body. And it's working with the diaphragmatic breath, essentially, with this visualization. So if you're someone who is very visual, who likes to work with images, that meditation can be really helpful. If it felt like it was too much information, which indeed is very possible, just focus on the sense of the solar plexus and the breath and the movement of the diaphragm. As you inhale, the diaphragm flattens, belly moves away. As you exhale, diaphragm arches, abdomen draws in. And just hold that for a moment longer. With that sense of awareness of the inner triangles. Before we come down into a restorative pose. Now, if you do want to do an inversion now, you can have an inversion time. Otherwise, I'm going to offer a restorative thoracic opening pose, but you can come into Shavasana as well. So in order to come into this, if you've done this before and it worked with a brick, that brick is going to go behind the shoulder blades as you lie down. Now, if we're going to have height like that, it may be the case that you'll want something underneath the head. So a cushion, or equally, some more padding. So, for instance, if you've got a block, you might even want to put a brick on top for a little cushion of the head. However, that's going to be really solid. So another option would be perhaps the blanket on top. And then you want to position this so the brick is behind the shoulder blades. You can just come into Shavasana, but this is something that is going to be quite lovely around the thoracic. So you bring the head to rest on the support and the brick, and you can use a roll-up sausage instead, comes underneath the rib cage. After the meditation, it may be the case that you just want to come down into Shavasana, into somewhere that's comfortable for you. The option with the legs is to have the knees bent, the knees straight. That's an option for you. Or you can come into Baddha Konasana, cobblers, or butterfly. And then you're coming into shapes, very much like a diamond shape within the legs. And then you can envisage a diamond shape around the heart space. Otherwise, you can come straight into Shavasana. And it's really what you need, especially because it's your practice. And I'm here to offer various things for you to embody. So if you come into your Shavasana, for instance, maybe use some padding. It's lovely to use padding to lengthen the neck muscles. And the padding almost comes into that occipital ridge and creates almost a Jaladhara bandha. And you can explore straightening the legs. Or indeed you can have the knees bent. You can use a bolster underneath your legs. So if you want to use a bolster, pop the bolster underneath the knees and allow for the knees to splay out to the side, the arms winging out from each side of the body. And if you've come into your thoracic restorative pose with some padding underneath the shoulder blades, I'll give you some time in that position before you come into Shavasana to finish. So it's really about coming into a shape that works for your energy this evening or whenever you're practicing. So to finish our Vayus practice, I wanted to finish with a 90-minute session. And hopefully the session has touched upon these Vayus, just to create some embodied clarity of what they may be within the asana and pranayama practice. And it is a subtle concept. When you move into these concepts of prana within yoga, it becomes more and more layered and subtle as you move into those. And as you know now, a lot of the actions, a lot of the practice that we do is about energy management. To put it in layman's terms, it's about energy management. At its heart, Hatha Yoga is more than just flexibility or strength in postures. It is the management of prana, the vital life force that animates all levels of being. Prana enables the body to move and the mind to think. It is the intelligence that coordinates our senses and the perceptible manifestation of our higher selves. By becoming more attentive to prana and enhancing and directing its flow through the practices of Hatha Yoga, we can invigorate the body and mind, develop and expand it in awareness, and open the door to higher states of consciousness. The yoga tradition describes 5 movements or functions of prana, known as the Vayus, literally winds. Prana Vayu, Apana Vayu, Samana Vayu, Udana Vayu, and Vyana Vayu. These 5 Vayus govern different areas of the body and different physical and subtle activities. When they're functioning harmoniously, they assure the health and vitality of the body and mind, allowing us to enjoy our unique talents and live life with meaning and purpose. So as part of our sadhana, our self-practice, the yoga practice becomes more and more about meditation. A sense of moving towards meditation. And exploring how energy flow can be manifested or changed throughout our practice. And that's all about relationship and reciprocity, because it takes into account the food that we eat, the thoughts that we think, the means of elimination, and it's very much about balance. And Vyana Vayu is very much about moving towards this sense of oneness and all-pervading, expansive sense of there not being boundaries between self and other. And you may find yourself in relaxation becoming quite porous. And if you've moved into that sense of porousness, let's come to close the practice by drawing your attention onto the in-breath, bringing some movement into the extremities. And at the end of the following sound from the singing bowl, or nada, come to roll onto either side of your body, protecting your head, maybe with some padding by the side of the cheek. And the same again at the end of the following sound. Come to sit in an upright position, with your eyes closed, or gazing softly down at the floor in front of you. And if you do find yourself to feel more porous, and maybe too porous after your practice, it can be helpful to just come to an awareness of the fascia, or the skin, or that boundary within our body. So there is a protected boundary within our body that receives and releases, but is still there. So if you do feel too porous within a practice, and I know that, from practice, from experience myself, that can be the case. Sometimes you need to just come back to a sense of actual separateness. Just come back to the skin that you're in. So to close the practice, let's bring the hands together through the third eye center, bowing in acknowledgement of one another and the space in between in our practice. Bring the hands down to heart center, namaste.